welcome, welcome to the Sigma Show, episode 120. I am your host, Sigma. Before I let you know who is joining me this week, real quick, we'll go over what our topics will be. And like it's been the last couple of weeks, not a ton of news, but we do have some interesting organizational shakeups happening over at Microsoft due to the Activision Blizzard deal coming to a close, and some really interesting shuffle, I believe. So we'll get into like maybe if this will help kind of rein in the massive I don't know what to call it. Like it's like a mound of of developers and publishers and whatnot that make up the new Microsoft Game Studio or whatever. But here to discuss such things with me, Rachel Kaiser.
Hi everybody, I'm back.
As well as Marty Sleva.
Good morning.
And yeah, we were supposed to, if you guys were paying attention, I was teasing a new face would show up on the show, but unfortunately does not seem like that was able to come to fruition, but hopefully in the future we'll get to find out who this mystery person was. But we'll probably have other new faces as well, aside from the person I'm referring to in the near future. So just keep an eye out for that. But as we tend to do, we'll jump right into what we've been playing, what we've been watching, what we've been listening to, doing, just general shooting shit. We just call this section shooting shit.
Like
Always.
But yeah, anybody feel like going first? And I see you guys in the chat. What's up, Fungus Finder, Nick, King's Dead, Lampy, George Lucas. What's up, all? Welcome.
I can go first.
Yeah, go for it.
Go right.
So I spent part of the week in San Francisco for the GamesBeat Next conference. Because as anyone here who has not seen me properly introduce myself, I am a writer for GamesBeat, and we had our big conference out in San Francisco where we have a bunch of like big people, fairly decently big people in the industry. Actually, I'm kidding. They are big people in the industry. Come out and talk on various topics. We had discussions about indie games, about blockchain. Of course, we had some we actually had a whole wasn't a panel, it was a single person, basically a TED talk. Is the metaverse dead?
What was the conclusion of that talk? I'm just curious.
The speaker believes it is not. I reserving judgment on whether or not I agree, but professionally,
was the talk held inside of a metaverse of some sorts?
It was not, no, unless you consider our conference a metaverse. But I met the creator, Alexei Pajitnov, the creator of Tetris, and I also hosted my third Women in Gaming breakfast. This sounds like a promo, but mostly I'm just really excited about the stuff that I did while I was there. Because I did it all. The first day I was wearing a Luigi hat, and the second day I was wearing tiefling horns.
Incredible.
Because amazing. I have discovered that this event is really it's 10 times more fun if you wear funny hats, because like people like come up to you more and have like stimulating conversations more because they have like an easy icebreaker to start a conversation with you, and just generally it's it makes for more fun. Also, people can find you more easily in a crowd, and we had a venue with several hundred people in it, so you see me as like just me like walking through with the horns. It's like, oh, there's Rachel.
See, politicians need to start wearing weird hats. That'll just break the ice. That'll be
they tried that. Remember the whole MAGA thing? Like,
oh yeah, never mind. They already did that. That's true.
Yeah, they did that.
Never mind.
It did not go well. But yeah, that's awesome.
Although if they had devil horns, it would have been much more. It would have been much more on brand, probably.
On brand, yeah.
Lampy, funny you should say that. I did actually have my Bayonetta watch with me.
There you go.
But the whole point is to wear headwear so that people can easily pick you out in a crowd. So what I've been playing, I finished. I got the platinum for Spider-Man 2.
Hey.
After I finished the review for it, which I still love everything about the game. I love a lot about the game except the boss fight arenas. Like that was like my big point of contention in my review, is that every time you have to have like a one-on-one boss battle, it's like the whole game shrinks to the size of like a parking lot.
Yeah.
And it's like whereas in the last game you have these huge like big arenas where Spider-Man is using his superior mobility to swing around, and like the fight with Vulture and Shocker, or the Doc Ock fight in the last game. It's like we didn't have anything that was that good, and that made me really disappointed because we're fighting Venom. This should be a lot more awesome than it is, but
So you were a fan of the Doctor Octopus fight in Spider-Man 1?
Not necessarily the Doc Ock fight. Actually, I prefer the Vulture and Shocker fight. To me, that's the best fight in the whole game. But at least in the Doc Ock fight, you can swing around. Like, you have much more freedom of movement than you have. Like, I won't spoil, but there is a certain boss battle in Spider-Man 2, a very pivotal moment in the story, and it's a deeply it's meant to if there ever was a showcase, a chance to showcase Spider-Man's superior mobility, it would have been that fight. But it all takes place on the ground. Like, there is literally no room to swing, so you don't.
Yeah,
and I was so disappointed.
I haven't finished it yet. I think I'm probably 3/4 through or so, but it seems like the one boss battle that feels like that is the opening.
Yes,
with
and I was so impressed by that one because speaking of Bayonetta, that one gave me major Bayonetta 2 energy because that's a boss battle like that would have been end game or post game in the first game, and now it's like the first thing that you do in the sequel of like major Bayonetta 2 energy, which is a compliment coming from me, but. Yeah, it never gets better than that. And, that's what I was showing to my aunt when I was showing her, like, it's like, yeah, I'm playing a new Spider-Man game. And she's like, oh, can I watch? And I was like, I got something to show you.
Yeah, that opening's really impressive. And I kind of agree with you. Like, I love the moment-to-moment gameplay and a lot of the smaller story things in the game. I have yet to get that sort of, like, feeling of awe that I had in the opening throughout the rest of the game yet. So
I do like
maybe I won't get it the rest of it.
Well, I want to say more, but I don't necessarily. Game's still new. I don't want to spoil some of the major story beats. Yeah. I'm okay with mentioning the Sandman fight because that's like the first 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah, and they even showed it in official trailers right before it dropped. So
yeah, there is a fight with a certain character where you play as Miles and you are chasing them, and that is that is also a really good boss fight for the game. But other than that,
well, I mean, just started before you move off of Spider-Man.
Yes.
Like, I'm sure the game is great. Like, I plan to get it sometime down the road. But I do, like, I don't want to sound like a hater, but like I keep seeing like people posting like, oh, this game is incredible for X reason, for that reason, and it's like very seemingly regular things that I feel like. Like, Spider-Man is getting away with it because I feel like a lot more people are picking this up than who just play video games in general. Like, it's like a super, has very broad appeal. But like, and I felt this way throughout my playthrough of the first game and while watching my son play the 1.5 Miles Morales game. Like, the only thing interesting in the Spider-Man games is the swinging mechanics, I feel like. Like, the combat is, very Batman Arkham, like they put a Spider-Man swing to it, pun not intended, but like really that whole game is the swinging mechanic, like flying around through the city, like parkouring off roofs and whatnot, and that is so fun and so unique to that game franchise that I'm curious. Like, that's only like a part of the game, like it's like locomotion in the game. Everything else is very cookie cutter. I wish they somehow made the swinging more core to everything else that you do in that game. Like you're saying, like the boss fights kind of put you in an arena and you just kind of punch stuff.
Yeah, well, the problem is that was actually like part of the first game. I thought was that there was a lot more mobility in the boss fights, like because it was about Peter using his strengths, well, and Miles as well. I thought the Tinkerer boss fight in Miles Morales, while not necessarily like everything against Rhino, I was like, why is Miles fighting Rhino in like these small, like this is Rhino, you should be like chasing him down city streets and like anyway. But I did like the Tinkerer boss fight in Miles Morales, but but that's the whole thing. Peter and Miles have excessive, they are max dex characters, and so like putting them in small confines with a larger enemy, which is what happens a lot in Spider-Man 2. It doesn't give them a lot of like the number of times I got like trapped in a corner by an enemy in Spider-Man 2. It's like that's like my major complaint with that's my major complaint with the game, is because it undermines the one thing that Spider-Man does to absolute perfection, which is the locomotion. So like the combat is, you're right, the combat is okay. It's not It's not great. It doesn't have that same like wonderful flow that the Arkham series does. And the only problem I have with the sequel mainly is that it kind of cuts down on the gadgets.
Okay, yeah,
Like
because there were a lot in.
there were a lot
there were a
in
lot
the
in the
first
first one,
Spider-Man
yeah.
game, and I liked them. I liked the gadgets, and I was almost kind of hoping that Peter would still have the gadgets, but Miles would have his Venom powers instead, because that is the difference between the two of them. But instead, they sort of like beef up Peter's spider abilities in order to try to match Miles, which kind of feels like, it's like that's not Peter. But I mean, just because I don't want to be completely negative, I will say every single vocal performance in this game is top tier. I love it all. Like Najee Jeter as Miles, basically having to be while balancing like every different plate you could possibly imagine as a young man, is also still having to be the straight person to Peter. And
Did he get any bass in his voice? I feel like Miles sounded real prepubescent in the last two games.
Still in high school. He's still going through it.
I mean, he is. I mean, I've actually met Najee Jeter. He does sound like that. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so that is just what he sounds like. I don't know if he actually can add that much bass to his voice.
I'm just teasing.
What do you want? Should Tony Todd have played Miles Morales instead of Venom?
I love Tony Todd for all of the 5 minutes he's in Spider-Man 2. Because they use his voice as Venom very sparingly, I will say, and to great effect, because every time you hear the voice, it sounds like he's got like this nasty, like inhuman fry to his voice. And not Venom, not Tony Todd. Tony Todd's great.
Yeah,
I love him.
He has a regular human fry to his voice.
He has a regular human voice, but when he's playing Venom, he really like leans into like this fry inflection in his voice.
Do you think that's like punishment for him spoiling like the the reveal? Like we're taking half the lines out.
I don't know. I actually I think it might have been actually to make room for Kraven, because you had Jim Peary as Kraven, who is, I think, really good at playing Kraven. It's a little bit of a different take on the like Master Hunter gimmick of Kraven. And I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Kraven as a character, because it's just a weird like character concept to me.
He's like Predator, but a human.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of wish I had seen more of him in the story, but I like the again, I don't want to spoil, but I like what turns out to be the underlying motivation of the character. It feels kind of, he's an ordinary human powered by money and audacity. I'll put it that way, and that's how he's played in the game, and I like that. I enjoy that. Because he almost comes across as a foil for Spider-Man, because he does not give up and he laughs in the face of death.
Yeah, I think you as in Casey might be giving the combat a little bit of the short shrift, and I think that's I think it's because the swinging is so good that it sets a crazy bar. Like very few games, especially in the AAA realm, have one component that is so outlandishly good that it makes the other really good parts of it feel shitty in comparison. And that's how good the swinging is in this game. The swinging is so out of this world that when the combat is like capital G good, it feels lacking because it doesn't bring that same depth as the swinging does. And I don't think it's that much behind the Arkham combat. Like, I think to me it feels a lot. I mean, it obviously owes quite a debt to the Arkham combat. Like, if anything, this feels like it picked up the baton that Rocksteady pawned off at the shop in 2015 after Arkham Knight.
No. I do see what you're saying, and yeah, it is very Arkham-like. It's more just a vibe for me, and that's hard to quantify, because like it's more like the Arkham combat had the same kind of relaxing, like Zen-like flow to me that the swinging does in Spider-Man. So it could just be that because the combat does not have that same level of like, oh, I can really get into this and like really find my my pattern here. So if it doesn't have that, it's, again, you are right, Marty. I think that it's not. I'm sorry, I've still got my conference voice on, so I'm sorry if I sound a little stiff, but. It's taken me several days, and I need to get a good night's sleep to get it out of my system. But yeah, it does. The combat is, the combat is a 4 out of 5, and the if the swinging is a 5 out of 5, it makes a 4 out of 5 combat look bad by comparison.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, it's when you see like
that way.
like when you see what was it, like a picture of like Arnold Schwarzenegger next to like was it Kareem
yeah, it was
Abdul-Jabbar
like
and
Kareem
Andre the
Abdul-Jabbar.
Giant?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, oh my god, you look tiny, but like, no, it's a big dude. It's a big dude.
Yeah, I've seen that
Yeah,
picture.
yeah, and I like the writing. I really like the side quests in the game. Yeah, the writing and the performances are just like really fucking good. Like it's just they nailed it. And it also doesn't seem like it's a game that outstays its welcome because I think nearing ish the finish line, and I'm doing everything as I go along, and it feels like I'll be able to completely finish it in like 30 hours, under 30 hours probably, which is nice.
Sweet.
Get out of my life.
And I will say, I feel like the only person in the world who likes the MJ missions.
Yeah, I think they're a lot
I've
better
heard-
in this game than they
heard a
were
lot
in the
of
first
complaining.
game.
Yeah. Well,
I
it's
like them a lot better in this one.
I actually don't like him in this one because it's like the whole point of those
Classic
missions is to
MJ
have...
hater. I knew there was an
No,
MJ hater
no.
here.
I don't. I love MJ. I really do. The only problem is that it. Okay, again, I don't want to spoil, so I will put this in as general terms as possible. In the first game, the Mary Jane segments were how you see like what Spider-Man does from a ground level perspective. It's what the supervillains look like when you can't swing above them, or you don't have superpowers, more or less. The sequel, they want MJ to probably, in order to make those segments become more efficient, they need to give MJ a way to actually like be able to beat people in one-on-one combat. And unfortunately, given the nature of the people that you are fighting in the game, and she basically becomes somebody mentioned Jane Wick. I would go so far as to say Lady Punisher.
Wow.
So like that's how much they have to beef up her power level, and it's so stupid to me because they had an opportunity in the game because she's working under J. Jonah Jameson in this game. So they had an opportunity to like really lean into her whole journalism storyline, and as a writer myself, I love the idea of because Peter's constantly hyping her up, saying it's like your writing can change the world, you can do so much good for the world. I'm like, Jameson does more good for the city than she does in this game.
I mean, Peter's dating her. Of course, he's gonna big her up.
Of course, he's gonna hype her up. But yes, I understand that. That's his job.
Think about how inspired her writing is gonna be after the 10th Craven Hunter man that she stun gunned in the neck.
Yeah.
Like imagine, like she's gonna be able to spin so many great sentences after she takes those fools out with stealth takedowns.
And I will say, somebody in the comments asked if the J. Jonah podcast bits are back, and yes, they are. So you can still hear Jameson berating Spider-Man, which for some reason Peter just keeps on his earpiece during the day while he's out swinging around. It's like, I don't know what
Motivation. You gotta hear your haters.
I guess so.
To be honest, that's super true. Like, if someone is constantly talking shit about you, that's like an addiction. You have to hear what else they're saying just so you can be like, this is some bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, actually, because in the first game, one of the highlights to me is, again, there's a bit when, the city is like being taken over by, the private army, and they've instituted martial law, and Jameson, of all people, is actually one of the few people who is getting on the horn saying, this is not constitutional, this is not right. If you see these people committing offenses against you and the authorities won't listen, I will call me and I will tell everyone about it. And if they want to try to silence me, they're welcome to try. And I'm like, how are they making Jameson sound so badass here?
I feel like his character has always been like, he like swings back and forth between like a real foolhardy like right-wing lunatic almost, but then also
yeah. He's got a bone to pick with Spider-Man, but other than that, he does seem
thing.
To be...
But like, yeah, he does actually care about his journalistic integrity and free speech and,
stuff
like that. Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of the things I enjoyed about the first game. It is actually still sort of present in this game as well. Jameson is like a sort of multi-layered character who is mostly comic relief. Is it okay if I mention what else I've been?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I have moved on to Alan Wake. This has been a really, really dense month. So I feel like I've only gotten to like 50% of the games that have come out in October. And I've played like a dozen games so far, so I'm like, I'm drowning on dry land here trying to keep up with everything. But so far, I'm only a little bit into Alan Wake 2, but I like it so far.
Yeah, I'm hearing nothing but good things. Like the last trailer they showed before it launched, like really impressed me. And like Alan Wake wasn't like really high in my radar, But like I kind of really liked the remaster that I reviewed a while back. So I was like, yeah, I'll check out Alan Wake 2 at some point. But like it's looking like I need to play this game as soon as possible.
There's so many good games coming out this year. I said to somebody on Twitter that it was gonna my game of the year, like, because I rank all the games I play at the end of the year. Like my end of year ranking list is just gonna be one giant love fest. How disgusting is that?
Just change it to
Yeah, there's
games of the year.
probably
Yeah.
like 10 games this year that any of them would have been my favorite game of 2021. 2021 I felt like was like a particularly weak year.
Is that when Sekiro won Jeff Keighley's
No, that was 2019.
20? Oh damn, that was 2019.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
That
that was
we're
pre-pandy.
getting old. We're getting old.
Is that
over
when
here.
It Takes Two won?
It Takes Two won.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
And like,
yeah.
Death's Door was probably my favorite game of that year, which was great. But like there's probably 10 games I like as much as Death's Door this year.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as Alan Wake 2, also not super far in it because I didn't get started till Friday and haven't put that much time into it. One of the things, as you get a little further into it, I'm amazed by is this finally feels like Remedy has nailed their weird melding of live action and gameplay, which they've been trying to do since the first Alan Wake. Alan Wake has it. Obviously, Quantum Break was this big experiment in taking, live action sort of episodes and combining it with gameplay.
Rest in peace, Lance
Control.
Reddick.
Oh,
Oh, seriously, yeah. And then Control had those. Anytime you kind of had visions and talked to the board, and then those darling videos, it did that. This melds it even more with the gameplay and makes the live action things sort of like make sense in the world, like why there's a differentiation between these things in a really effective way. And it's like, holy shit, this is a studio that it felt like people really loved Max Payne 1 and 2, and then the original Alan Wake had sort of mixed response, I think, when it first came out, same with American Nightmare, and then Quantum Break felt like that was like when Microsoft just couldn't get anything right, which we'll be talking about,
Yeah.
in our main topic.
Yeah.
But then with Control, they like fucking nailed it. And then with this, it's like, oh man, like these guys are like firing on all cylinders. Like this team like knows what the fuck it's doing, and this is, I feel like they've sort of cemented themselves in this rarefied atmosphere of AAA devs that I'm going to be curious to see. Obviously, Epic funded this one, but like, if someone's going to try to gobble them up in this ongoing
I feel like
ongoing
that might
arms race.
be next.
Yeah.
That's a terrifying thought.
Yeah. But it is also funny because in the same time they have released duds like that. Crossfire X was a
That was
huge-
them?
Yeah. Sometimes
weird.
you gotta cash those checks.
I mean, I would still say Quantum Break was definitely a dud because of the gameplay, not really so much the multimedia aspect.
Yeah. And like visually it was cool and like the story was cool, but yeah, playing the game was kind of a slog.
Yeah, the game felt like an afterthought to the other stuff they were experimenting with in that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, it sounds stupid. This is going to sound really petty, but the thing that broke me, the thing that made me break with Quantum Break was the art design and the color. Like it was like this weird, like if I remember correctly, there was just these weird orange and turquoise, like power, like colors, everything. It was offensive to my eyeballs, basically. And it's
was
one
like
of those
that kind
games
of
that
smearing effect,
Yeah.
right?
And I didn't like that at all. And it was one of those times when I'm like, it can just be one element of a game's art design sometimes that can just completely like make my brain
Like that comes
give
back.
me the ick.
That comes back in Control though, like that same sort of like motiony smearing thing, but like
Yeah.
a lot of that game is just red. So like
Yeah,
maybe
a lot
just
of it
fits,
is more like
just
red
fits
and
better.
neutral tones.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little bit more comfortable. It doesn't feel it doesn't give me the ick quite that badly. And I loved Control.
Yeah, Control's great. I after hearing how good Alan Wake is, I can't wait for them to do another Control.
Yeah. And
We need
it's like,
crossovers.
yeah, I was about to say they're like the one I roll my eyes anytime someone tries to do a shared universe now, like especially in movies. But I feel like Control was kind of the perfect conduit for that. Like that whole thing is just like, here's a building filled with a bunch of fucking X-Files, and every one of our game can be a different X-File that we plug into this building. And Alan Wake is just one of the stories in here, and seems like every story going forward is going to sort of plug in somewhere here.
Very high budget SCP.
Yeah, it's cool. It's the good shit.
which I enjoyed.
Yeah.
I was actually, funnily enough, I was actually just weird side tangent, but I was thinking about that when I was coming back from San Francisco because San Francisco Airport was getting is partially getting remodeled while I was there, so I had to like curve through some like very beige hallways that are being where because around to get around construction down there, and I was just like, wow, this feels very backroomsy,
Oh
and
no.
for some reason that made me think of Control.
Did you get any bread bowls while you're in San Francisco?
I did not. I wasn't there that long.
Is San Francisco known for its famous bread bowls or
Sourdough,
something?
yeah, sourdough. Get some clam chowder and a bread bowl. You eat the chowder, and then you got yourself a bread bowl.
I had Chinese while I was there, so
There you go. Yeah,
that felt like also kind of
Bre-
a
bread
thing I
bowl of the
need
East.
to do.
Yeah.
The bread
But
bowl of the East.
okay. Well, San Francisco's in the West, but
No, the Chinese food is known as the bread bowl of the East.
okay. Um, other than that, other than Spider-Man, Alan Wake, the only other thing I can talk about with any significance is I've been watching. I've fully caught up on Loki now.
Oh,
How you liking
season
it?
2's not done yet, right? It's still
No,
going.
it's
Okay.
we're
4
midway
episodes.
through it.
So how's that going? I heard some mixed things from
It's
literally
well,
Marty.
well, well. First of all, Kiwi Kwan's in it, so that is
Good.
like that automatically like kicks it up 2 points
That's
for
true.
me
That's
at the
true.
very least. But Jonathan Masters is in it, and so that I'm still not sure where we're gonna settle on him.
Oh,
Um,
Majors.
Jonathan Majors, sorry,
Mhm.
Jonathan Masters is somebody different. I'm sorry.
I'm like,
Oh God,
should I know who
Jonathan
that is?
Jonathan Majors. That's who I meant to say. I'm sorry.
No problem.
I'm still not sure where we're going to settle on him. If we're going to keep him in the MCU or not. If the allegations against him turn out to have a basis in fact, and
Yeah,
I
that's
don't want to.
very messy.
Yeah, I don't want
It's
to
up to
think about that.
Disney, and they seem like they're not budging just yet. So
I'm kind of liking the weird shenanigans that are going. If put it this way, in the third episode, we go to the Chicago World's Fair, and we go to several different time periods over the course of the first couple episodes. Chicago World's Fair being the biggest one. And what I find it very interesting though is that when they go there, Mobius is talking about all the big things that happened around that time. One of the ones he mentions is the serial killer who is around. I was like, I don't think the serial killer, the devil in the White City, is what we should be talking about here. I don't think that's like the most significant thing that happened.
He had a murder hotel, though. We should. we need to fix this murder hotel.
What was I saying? Oh yeah. So anyway, one thing I liked about that I thought that lived up to the concept that was promised in the first episode, in the first season rather, but not really delivered on, is the sort of like different time periods. And like everybody dressing in period costumes as they visit different time periods, and just having everybody in period dress in general just is always fun. So for no, it's a very Carmen Sandiego kind of a thing, and I love it. So that's what gives me the most enjoyment about the season so far.
Yeah, I thought episode 2 was a big step down in my mind, but I've enjoyed 3 and 4. I still think 1 was my favorite of the season so far, but yeah, I'm higher on this than I've been on almost anything outside of Loki season 1 in phase 4 and 5. I think it just
MCU-wise,
I think it just has a vision, and sort of like a real sense of authorship that so much of the MCU doesn't have anymore. So much of it feels designed by committee, and we need to plug in a bunch of pieces because X, Y, and Z are coming next, but we'll do those in reshoots afterwards because dates are getting shuffled around, and Multiverse of Madness is now after Spider-Man No Way Home, not before, so we need to completely change both movies. And it just like Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson and the rest of the supporting cast are just so good. Like they're just so
They
good.
are,
And they just seem
yeah.
like they're having a lot of fun. And yeah, I wish I felt the same way about the rest of the stuff coming out that I feel about this. And yeah, we'll see like how the Marvels does in a few weeks. But I'm imagining that'll be another doom and gloom scenario after that,
Yeah.
because it seems like even Disney doesn't really have a lot of faith in that.
yeah, and the
Yeah,
actors
and
strike is still ongoing. So like the people in it
Yeah.
probably can't even do
Yeah, and it's
anything to try
tough.
to like. It's
Because
unfortunate.
like you
No.
can't, like, their secret weapon is that like the actor who plays Miss Marvel is like just a fucking like tornado of charisma, and
Mhm.
like they can't let her out there. Like they can't put the three of them on Hot Ones. They can't have. I always go to Hot Ones for some reason now.
Well, it's a big
No one's
YouTube
gonna see
channel.
the movie if they can't have the hot sauce.
The number of memes that have been born from that show alone is
Yeah,
incredible.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I'm enjoying Loki, and I'm excited that it sounds like the directors of episode 1 and then 4 and the rest of the series, Benson and Moorhead, who I really like. They do a lot of indie sci-fi movies. They've been tapped to direct a bunch of, so they're like completely rejiggering the new Daredevil show. Like they filmed a bunch of
Yeah.
it, and then they're like,
Mhm.
"Well, everyone's gone. We don't know what we're gonna do, and now we're gonna try to retry this." And those guys are gonna be directing a bunch of it, and I'm excited for that because they're great.
Yeah. I will say there is like some like I mean, you already mentioned a little bit like there's definitely like some quality inconsistency in this season. It does feel like some things were hacked to pieces in editing for
Mhm.
sure. And the one part of it that is a little bit weird to me is that okay, so Tom Hiddleston and Sophia Di Martino are both playing variants of Loki, the Norse god of mischief. Why are they the straight person in any given scene they're in? Loki should not be the straight person. Like I don't like I understand things are just like in the first season it was sort of like a fish out of water kind of thing, but Loki's with it now. Like outside of the first episode and its weirdness, like other than that, he's got generally a good grasp of what's happening in any given scene. Like so, I don't know. It just feels like it feels like this person is not this character is kind of like it's almost like he's so beaten down by everything that has happened, and kind of the same with Sylvie as well, that they are just so overwhelmed and beaten down by everything that has happened to them up to this point that you've sort of like wrung the mischief out of them. So and that's what makes it so weird that in the last episode, in the most recent episode, there's a line where she says something about this line is in the trailer, so not a spoiler, but she says something about we're playing God, and Loki says we are gods, and I'm like, really? I kind of forgot. You haven't acted like one in quite some time. So I think, like, ironically though, the second episode, like the one that was all that again felt like it was hacked pieces and editing, is the only one where Loki has felt like Loki so far.
Mhm.
Yeah, where he's actually like using all of his powers and shit,
Yeah,
and
using his powers,
Yeah.
being strategic and clever, and having a little bit of fun at the expense of his enemies. It's like that's Loki, and the rest of so it's like I love everything about Loki's episode 1, 3, and 4 except Loki.
Yeah, it's
And
tough, like you said, how he's kind of playing the straight man, and it's because like he's surrounded by talking cartoon clocks and Owen Wilson, who kind of are incapable of being the straight man.
well,
Like,
because Owen Wilson was the straight man kind of in the first season.
Yeah, he tried.
He tried.
Yeah. And
Well,
he's always
put
talking
it
about
no,
the
no.
goddamn jet ski.
Well, put it this way: he
He wouldn't
was
stop
the
talking about it.
he was the abbot of the pair.
Sure, yeah.
He was the abbot to like to Loki's and occasionally Sylvia's
Yeah.
Costello, more or less.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to put
So
it.
not so much straight man as just a different variety of humor. And in this
Mhm.
one, it's like I don't know. I'm not sure they even know what to do with Mobius anymore as a character.
He's gonna get his jet ski. It'll be fine.
Yeah, that's
be
what I'm
cruising.
hoping. That would be a
He'll be
good
cruising.
end for this character. But
Yeah.
Like now that you're mentioning the Tom Hiddleston as straight man thing, I feel like they've actually been doing that to Loki's character for a while now. I've not seen Love and Thunder, but in Ragnarok, like there's a lot of screen time between Thor and Loki, and
Oh,
Thor
he's not
is
in
the
Love and Thunder because he's dead. He's dead.
Oh, right. Well,
we need to get those
he's
two back
dead,
together.
Yeah. Well, because
Look-
this is non-dead Loki.
But I
This is
just
different
haven't seen it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But in what'd you call it?
Ragnarok.
Ragnarok.
Like Thor is the goofball,
Yeah.
and like Loki's like next to him having to deal with Thor just kind of being
Yeah.
a goofball, and
Yeah.
that seems very reversed, like you're saying. Like so, but they've been
Well,
doing that to him
except-
forever.
Except that bit with the Hulk fight in the arena, where Loki
Oh,
is up
sure.
in the stands, like literally screaming his head off
Yeah.
as Thor gets a beat down from the Hulk. That's
Yeah.
that's one of my favorite scenes in the entire MCU, especially when the Hulk first gets there and Thor's just like, Loki, look who it is, and Loki's just sitting there like, I'm dead, I'm dead.
The guy who kicked the shit out of me. Oh no. Yeah, and
but-
it is funny that Loki throughout the MCU just constantly taking L's. Like that dude.
Yeah.
That dude's like, I have an army and we're gonna invade New York City, and oh my god, I've gotten the shit beat out of me again. Oh no.
Oh, poor boy. But
Yeah.
so I'm glad that this character is getting a spotlight show. It just feels like for a show that's supposed to be centered around Loki, they don't know what to do with Loki.
Disney's attending to do that a lot because I had that same issue with Ahsoka. I've not seen it yet, but I've heard it's just not even. It's not really her show.
Ahsoka and Friends.
Yeah, I got that same impression. I haven't finished Ahsoka, but Marty, I'm gonna message you on Discord once I finish it all up, and we're gonna have a confab, I think.
I did not like that. I did not like the last episode. I did not like the last episode.
I will reserve judgment. We shall see.
Please do. I just hope everyone has a good time.
Yeah,
that's all I hope.
But I guess same with this show. As long as we got a bunch of great actors in there, and we've got a bunch of just cool set piece moments. If the main character feels a little bit underserved, well,
I'm enjoying it week to week, which is that's the most I can give it right now, and that's great. Like I'm happy to tune in every Thursday or Friday or whenever the hell it is.
But since you mentioned it, I will say I do want Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston to play Thor and Loki together again at some point, because those two, their chemistry is just amazing, and I love seeing the two of them together.
Yeah, they are great together.
So anyway, that wraps it up for me. I am done.
Sweet. Marty, do you have a lot of stuff to get into, or?
No, not too much. I mean, we have I talked about the Spider-Man and Alan Wake, Mario Wonder. I don't have too much more to say other than I just.
True.
I just think that game was delightful, top to bottom. It didn't overstay its welcome. I thought it.
How long did you say it was till I get to the end?
I mean, Nintendo's bad at giving you timing on things. It'll be like, you played it for more than 5 hours. It's like, thanks, Nintendo. Thanks, I appreciate it. I probably 100%ed it in 10 to 15 hours.
10. Okay.
But that's a game I'm absolutely going to go back and replay when my the holes in my memory get bigger and bigger, and I forget everything from it in 2 years. But yeah, it was just really good, and I felt like it was a real return to form for 2D Mario that I haven't seen since the Super Nintendo era. So more of that, please. And then in terms of stuff I was watching, I watched the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, and I didn't like it, but that didn't matter because I overall think it is a net positive. And I was saying this last night. I think it is a gateway to horror for an entire generation. And I think kids who are obsessed with the games and the books and the lore are going to watch this movie, and then they might wander over to other better horror. And if that happens, if it converts 5% of its fans into better horror, then it gets a thumbs up in my book.
Is that a normal thing? Did you, for example, as a young kid, benefit from seeing bad horror movies, and then oh well, maybe I'll try another thing, even though this.
I benefited from Goosebumps.
Is that bad horror though, or is it just horror aimed at kids?
I mean,
is that what Five Nights at Freddy's is?
Horror aimed at kids. Yeah.
Is it? I don't really know that much.
Yeah.
I know kids took to it because of streamers. Streamers took to it,
sure.
And so their audience is just a lot of young kids. But was it
It
always
may not have
aimed at
originally.
kids?
It may not have originally been. It is now.
Okay.
Yeah. It sort of. It became that over time. Whether that was the intention in the first game, I don't know. But between all the games and spin-offs and YA novels and sort of cottage industry of lore and Matt Pat videos and everything, I think it got geared towards kids.
Because kids born after 2010 or something, they don't know anything about freaking animatronic.
Yeah, it's funny because it's nostalgic for a time that they didn't have. It'd be like if we grew up on some horror thing that was nostalgic for the 50s or 60s.
I mean, to be fair, a lot of that is not necessarily. I think that's kind of true. I was born in the 90s, and I grew up watching horror movies that are set in the 70s and 80s. So, Halloween, Friday the 13th, just stuff that is, but not necessarily a reflective of my everyday experience. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Yeah, or how the Scream series was a send-up on movies from 15, 20 years prior, and you don't need to have necessarily seen those movies to appreciate Scream, but you get sort of more from it, I guess, if you do.
Sure.
I don't know if that's exactly the case with Five Nights at Freddy's, but...
Because I don't know, I feel like because a lot of people will say this about like kid centric media is like it's okay that it's bad because they're kids and they don't really have taste and they don't know any better. They just kind of want to sit down and see stuff. But I feel like kids actually do benefit from quality stuff as well. Like you don't have to give them bad things because they're kids.
I agree, but with horror specifically, like feels like it needs a gateway, like hardcore action movies. I don't want to like sit like a 8-year-old who wants to see like action figures fight each other and be like, here's John Woo's Hard Boiled, or here's John Wick. Like that's like maybe seeing like the Avengers is like, oh, maybe when I get a little bit older, I'll check out like well choreographed action movies and get into Hong Kong cinema and stuff like that. And maybe that's me coming from, I clearly don't have kids, and so maybe I'm just like delusional about it all, but
No, I mean,
I mean, schlock horror has kind of been a thing for almost as long as horror movies have existed, since this weird takes on like post Night of the Living Dead. But yeah, there's always been like a tradition of like kind of not great but still entertaining horror movies. Like they're not well made as movies, but they are entertaining to watch because they are kind of ridiculous and silly. And I mean, someone mentioned that FNAF is referencing the Chuck E. Cheese era that doesn't really exist anymore. But I think that's where you can give kids some credit. It's like they may not necessarily have a familiarity with the age of like slightly creepy animatronics in public like children's spaces, but they can still recognize like
the creepiness in it.
The
you don't need to have
creepiness
seen it firsthand in order to be like, oh, this is kind of creepy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because I see a lot of like a lot of film critics are either super surprised that it made a shit ton of money or are like really angry that it made a shit ton of money. And it's interesting to me because I'm like, people who are super surprised that this is successful, it feels like they're like, you don't realize that you're getting old and you just don't like, you're blind to this. There was this entire blind spot that this thing is incredibly fucking popular, but no one in our circles talks about it. Like, I guess in the game circle, you mention it sometimes, but like, I don't know. I don't really know anyone who's like a hardcore Five Nights at Freddy's fan. Like, but there are millions and millions and millions. And this movie, even though it released day and day on Peacock, I think it was, or Paramount, one of the two. They both start with a P, and I can't differentiate them.
There's no way to know.
There's really no way to know. Even though it released day and day on that, which means it was immediately stealable in 4K, because any movie that is released digitally is stealable in 4K. It still has made like so much fucking money this opening weekend at the box office. It was the biggest horror opening of the year.
Wow.
So yeah, I don't know. I think it's impressive. I don't like the movie. I don't think it's good. I think it is very impressive and like an interesting cultural artifact. And I hope that it inspires kids to see the real fucked up horror movies when they grow up.
I just want to point out Frogwater says Jim Henson did it so well, respecting kids with big themes. And I think like give kids a little more credit. Like I think you can make a thing that appeals to a young mind, but it's also scary, like treats that young mind as like, oh, what are some of the things a young mind would be scared of, and then use that against them in a thing that also tells like an actually interesting, compelling narrative that they can actually think about. Because like, and a lot of our media is just this, so like, no real shade towards Five Nights at Freddy's, but like, it's kind of just, it's garbage. It's like junk food media. Like it's colorful characters or colorful images or whatnot. Stuff you already know, it's brand centric, and then they just slap together a big budget thing to get in front of as many people as possible, and then they call that a win. And it's like, this doesn't do anything for anyone. Even the fans who are watching it probably don't get much out of it other than the thing I like is here again. So I don't know. I would like them to try a little harder, but I know they won't. So
I don't know. That feels pretentious to me.
Does it?
I don't know. Why am I defending Freddy's? I did not like this movie. I don't think it was good. I think comparing it to a Jim Henson thing, those feel like apples and oranges because like what Labyrinth and Dark Crystal were going for is very different than this. Like those had some scary things, but those weren't horror. This is like an attempt on horror in the same way that Goosebumps is, or like Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Which Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was fucking cool. But we just don't get that too often in kid-centric media. And so like I don't know. I think it's a win. I don't know why I consider it a win, but I do consider it a win.
I mean, somebody won. It made a lot of money, like
I
you
really
said.
like. I really
Yeah,
yeah.
it
That,
is.
that super conservative creator one. I don't know. I just want more kids to be into horror. Just watch ultraviolence. More kids need to just get
I think they're already
desensitized
there.
and watch ultraviolence. I think they're
I think
way
they're
past where I am.
Yeah, like these kids love horror stuff. At least my kid does, and I don't know where he got it from because
Yeah.
I don't care about horror whatsoever. But
Yeah,
like,
it's in
he
it's in
seeks
our
it out.
DNA, right? We like being scared. It makes you feel alive.
Okay,
Yeah,
Oh, isn't
it's
it?
a-
Like
I'll
it makes
take
you
your
like
word
you
for
sweat.
it. Like
That's like what a haunted house.
I don't like being scared at all. It's not a thing I ever try to seek out.
it's a fun well, I mean, fun is subjective, obviously, but I think the conceit behind it is that it is a why my ring light just shifted. So sorry, my face
Oh, it
got
sounds
really
like a Five
shadowed.
Nights at Freddy's is coming.
It's like, oh, there's a poltergeist. Anyway, it's a controlled way of experiencing, the adrenaline rush of, near. I wouldn't say near death, more like threat. So
Mhm.
and I think it can be a good way of experiencing and knowing how to deal with that in real life. That's my well. Thank you for coming for my TED talk, but that's one
I
of the
mean
benefits. I
that
think.
kind of assumes that you don't face threats or fear or whatnot in your real life.
No, I'm just saying it's a controlled way of experiencing that where you can control like how much of like the rush that you get. Like you can turn off a horror movie if it's too much for you.
Mhm.
And like you can walk out, you can turn off or you can stop playing a scary video game if it's too much for you.
Mhm.
But, so it's so you have complete control over how much of like the rush that you get, so to speak.
But
So
I can't
I've
stop
never
playing Silent Hill
understood.
4 because by the end of it, it's so scary. Man. I just want it to end. It's just so scary. I just want it to be done.
Like I just find like the obsession around fear fascinating because like I don't get it. Like I've never considered the sensation of fear to feel like a rush. It's
well, and
always a
to be
negative to me.
Like a hot
yeah.
sauce.
Well, and to
Do you
be
like hot sauce?
clear,
Sure,
it's
but it tastes good. But like
it
if it's
can
just
be.
burning me, then no.
I mean, and to be fair, I mean, a lot of it is sort of like fear in a general sense, as a sort of like triggering your survival instinct,
Uh huh.
as opposed to like, prolonged and psychological forms of fear, like, or even things like I'm thalassophobic. I've mentioned it before. I have an intense fear of deep water. I'm not going scuba diving anytime soon.
Mm.
I'm not gonna like put myself. I'm not, and unless I'm forced, there are certain games I will not play. Like I won't play. Was it Soma that came out?
Some
Like
yeah. Subnautica.
Dredge is like right on the periphery.
You could handle Dredge.
Yeah, I can handle
Dredge might be
Dredge.
your gateway. There's
Yeah,
one area of Dredge where there's deep water, and it spooked me. I was like, I don't want to go there.
yeah. I
Even though
mean,
I'm
Dave
playing
the
on my Switch
Diver.
while watching.
Dave
Yeah,
the Diver is as far as I've gone this year,
that's got some
but
deep water.
it does, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's fun and whimsical, and
Yeah. You
and
can
I
make
even
sushi at the end of the day.
yeah, and or a game like Abzu, for example. Like I can't play
Mm.
that, but my point being just that games, when you have like a deep psychological fear, like or a deeply ingrained fear, that's not something that you can safely trigger. I think
Mm.
that's not something so it's more of just like there are safe ways to trigger and experience fear without that sort of like sense of like psychological torment. So I think that's part of it.
All
But
right.
we could write whole essays on this. I think
And we will one day.
we will. Yes, we will have a whole debate show.
But yeah, well, go on, Marty.
Oh, then the last thing. So I recommended on a couple shows already this week that Scavenger's Reign, the new HBO animated series.
I saw the trailer for that and was like, I need to watch this.
Highly recommend Scavenger's Reign on HBO. I also started another new animated series, an anime. I believe it's 8 parts on a Netflix original animation. Well, Netflix original, but it's an adaptation of a manga called Pluto from 20 years ago. That was it's like a spiritual successor / reimagining of Astro Boy. But like an adult take on Astro Boy, like the iconic, like one of the OG manga Astro Boy. But it reimagines it as sort of like a hard-boiled detective murder mystery about a serial killer who's killing kind of like the great robots of the world. It's like set in this future where there's these 7 or 8 like great robots that have been created that are like meant to help mankind, that were like humanitarians and organized ceasefires and tried to like combat climate change and like replanted forests and everything, and they start getting killed off one by one. And these are supposed to be things that shouldn't be able to be killed, and like they don't know if a human's doing it or if another robot, and it sort of has like those rules of like the Asimov rules of a robot can't harm a human, and humans start dying. So it's like, what the fuck is going on?
Mm.
But I'm one episode in, and is like one of the most impressive original anime things that Netflix has done so far. Really great writing, really great, just really incredible animation, and like the tantalizing mystery is fantastic behind it. So that is called Pluto. All 8 episodes dropped on Amazon. It is they're hour-long episodes, which is kind of surprising. Like, I'm just not used to anime being an hour long. Like, but it's really good. So I just watched the first episode, but I'm excited to watch the rest of it.
Cool. Yeah, I saw that drop on Netflix, and it was on the list of all the other things that were getting announced, like all the video game centric shows that are coming out. And I had no idea what that was, but it looked super cool. So like, there's
Mhm.
that, and then there's, I think, Blue Eyed Samurai is also dropping soon.
Yeah, yeah.
So like,
Yeah,
those
when
are
they
like
do their like
original things.
dumb things or whatever, they sometimes
Yeah.
like show sizzle reels. I'm like, oh, look at all this shit.
So like, I'm
Yeah,
excited.
Netflix is really bad at me not knowing a thing exists until it's out. I did not know this thing existed until like like I saw a Polygon link yesterday that was like, you need to watch this Netflix anime. I was like, okay, Polygon, if you say so.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
definitely gonna check that out eventually.
yep, but that's it for me.
Uh, okay, so yeah, on my front, a Fungus Finder was already asking, but I did reach the end of my binge through to catch up on One Piece, to where there's, I think, one episode out that I haven't seen right now. But the major fight of the big Kaido arc has concluded. I've witnessed Luffy's new Gear 5 transformation, which was spoiled for me several like a month or two before I actually got there, because the internet has no filter. And I was I
What does that mean, and how did what
what,
like what?
well, you know how
What's it?
Goku
Super
in
Saiyan?
yeah, he went Super Saiyan. Luffy essentially gets and Luffy has had sort of upgrades, like transformations before, right? Where
Okay.
he's like, okay, he learns how to circulate the blood through his body to give him like an energy boost, or he
Mm.
he inflates himself to be like much bigger and stronger. So like, he's had like Gear 2, Gear 3, Gear 4, where he's like learning like new techniques and ways to utilize his rubber powers in like interesting ways. But this is like a full on transformation. Like, he kind like, his hair changes color, his clothes changes
Mm.
color. It's essentially called the awakening of like your devil fruit. 'Cause, like, other characters have done this in the past. Like, he fought Doflamingo, who has an awakened devil fruit, where the properties of their devil fruit now affect not just their body, but like things around them.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's actually really, it's a really cool concept, because the devil fruit system in One Piece has like a lot of very strange rules and power sets, but like the way that they all share some commonality is very interesting, and like they do really cool stuff with that. And so this is like Luffy getting to the next level of his devil fruit usage. But on that note, like I was saying, how much I loved like how the animation and stuff was changing to accommodate like the really spectacular like fight scenes and stuff. It's getting a little Dragon Ball Z-ish, with just massive explosions and just terrain deformation all the time. But it was still like very coherent and like fun to watch. When Luffy goes to Gear 5, that goes out the window. But not for the same reason. Like, it's not like just people yelling and shooting fireballs back and forth like Dragon Ball
Hmm.
Z is. Instead, and this is a bit of a spoiler, but like, I waited super long. So like, if you care about this, you probably have seen it already. So if you don't care, you don't want to hear it, rather tune out for like I'll wave my hands like this when the spoiler stuff is done. But I'm gonna go into it now, so you have been warned. So essentially, Luffy's power, he's a rubber man. It allows him to basically make his body rubber, and like the ground and like things he touches and interact with rubber as well. But apparently, some big reveal is that his devil fruit is actually not the type that we thought it was, because there are three types. One turns you into some sort of an animal, one allows you to gain some sort of a property, and the other allows you to become some sort of element. and Luffy's we thought changed his body, but his is actually one that transforms you into a sort of animal. Except the animal is a human, and the human has rubber powers. Right.
Is Luffy not a human?
Though Luffy's a human, but his devil fruit transforms him also into a human, so he doesn't change shape. Like Chopper was a deer who ate a human fruit.
Oh,
So which is why he can like talk and has like a humanoid form, but he was a deer at first. But
okay.
I'm sorry, you might not know who Chopper is.
No, I know Chopper.
Okay, yeah, 'cause you started
know,
watching the series, right?
I've seen pictures. Yeah.
So that's a reveal that Luffy's fruit type isn't what we thought it was. But the other reveal is that fruit type belonged to a god of sorts. And so that god, like 800 something years ago, had the ability to. Well, the god is called Joy Boy. Like, he's a very important character in the One Piece lore, or whatever. And like his whole thing is that he's able to fight freely. Like he can fight because like his whole thing is like he's the spirit of revolution. Like all he wants is for his friends to be happy and fed and whatnot. So he can fight as freely as he wants, and that's translated in essentially Looney Tunes style animation. So like Luffy has essentially adopted what folks in versus battles will call the Toon Force. Like if you ever put Bugs Bunny or like Daffy Duck in like a versus battle, folks will invoke like, oh, they have Toon Force. They can pull like anvils out of thin air. They can walk in the air. Like so he can do anything is essentially what they're saying Luffy's new power is. But the way he uses it here is just he's very Daffy Duck like in that he's just jumping around. He's like kind of laughing insanely. And like he's doing shit where like Kaido shoots a fireball at him and he picks up the ground, turns it into rubber, and then like launches it back like a trampoline. And like it turned the battle from that point forward into like it would have been fine if it was just okay, he's a Looney Tunes character now in the heat of this battle, but they made it fully incomprehensible. Like I could not understand what was happening because of the way the camera was spinning, because of the way Luffy's body was like flailing, and like it just turned to straight up mush after he finished the transformation. And I don't know if that was what's intended, but they were trying to get across the fact that Luffy is different. Like his fighting style is even more ridiculous than it was before. Because like the man used to like blow into his thumb and like create like a fist as big as his enemy's body. So it's like that's pretty goofy already. But like they tried to take it to another level, and I'm not sure that works. So I'm not really looking forward to seeing him battle like that again.
Yeah, like with no knowledge of that outside of what you just said, it feels like it may have been purposeful, but whether that actually like sticks the landing is one thing. Like to change the flow and cinematography to be almost incomprehensible to as a companion to the fact that this new ability is like reality altering seemingly.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, interesting.
And like the idea is like he's still learning it. So like there are other people off screen talking about what this means for like his character, but Luffy himself, he's still kind of limited, I guess, in his imagination. So he doesn't do anything too outlandish. It's just that the stuff he's doing is ridiculous, and it's supposed to be like you're basically fighting a cartoon character, and like that's what makes it frustrating. That's what makes him have the upper hand against you, is that he can essentially do whatever he wants. But
do they like go as far as like fourth wall breaks? Like, does he start acknowledging that he's an animated character?
No, it doesn't go that far. Okay. But
year 6.
But I mean, they could, I guess. Like, yeah. I guess it depends on Luffy. Like, Luffy has to better understand that he's now capable of doing kind of whatever he wants, because he was still sticking to like primarily like the stuff he's done before. Like, oh, I can make my arm big. What if I made my whole body big? What if I made myself as big as like not the planet, but like he's just escalating what he usually does because he can. But like he's not grasping the fact that he can do much more than that.
Sure.
Yet.
He's a sensei. He's a Master Roshi.
Yeah, he does.
He used to find an island pervert. The only way to get your true potential is an island pervert.
But yeah, after the last couple of episodes that wrap up that chapter, like I'll go back and watch those, and then I'm gonna take another big ass hiatus and just put One Piece on the shelf. It was a really good arc. They stretched it out for way too long. Spoilers are done in case anyone wants to come back and listen. But yeah, I don't know. I think it ended on a bit of a downer. Like people were very excited when it got to this section, but like, and maybe that's part of it. Like maybe it was bigged up to the point where I was like, all right, now let me see what actually happens here. And it was kind of underwhelming for me.
Mm-hmm.
But like Kaido's arc was a great story for a lot of characters, not so much for the main character. Like I feel like he didn't really get as much shine as a lot of secondary dudes did. But that's fine. Like he's the star. He'll get some time later on. But I won't go back to One Piece for a very long time now. But
Do you like watching it that way? Like taking big old.
I prefer it
breaks?
because of the way that show meanders. Like I feel
Mhm.
like you have to watch it that way. Like I cannot deal with how little story they actually tell per episode.
If you're doing week to week.
Yeah, like it would be like I'd have given up. And like if I didn't get much bigger context as to what's happening, like when I'm
Mhm.
in the binge phase, I probably would have just given up. Because sometimes it's like you literally did nothing. You wasted my goddamn time. Like as I was catching up, there were several episodes that were literally just recaps of several of the fights that came before, and they did this multiple times, and they did it more frequently as they wrapped up more fights. So it was like you're spending entire episodes recapping less content. Like you're clearly just like stalling for time.
Yeah, spinning your wheels.
So it's fine. We'll get to One Piece eventually, I guess. But outside of that, in terms of watching stuff, I've gone back to Stone Ocean, which is the latest JoJo's chapter.
Mhm.
Of all the JoJo's that I've been watching, Stone Ocean stars the first woman, Jolene Kujo. She's Jotaro's daughter, and she's in prison. So, and I think a prison set story is always super interesting, especially one in the JoJo's universe. But it has been probably the weakest of all the ones I've seen so far. But the second half of this season is picking up. Like it's starting to get a lot more interesting. The characters are getting a lot more likable, and like it's getting as goofy as it's getting goofy enough to where like I'm audibly laughing at just some of the situations and stuff that are going on in it. Like without spoiling anything, they they run through a lot of characters fairly quickly, and I don't feel like they did that so much in the other ones. Like the people you were dealing with, the antagonists, you got a little bit more time to learn who they were and what they were dealing with. Whereas this, like because it's a condensed space, for whatever, I feel like it would have worked better if you had people who were trapped in that location with you that you had to keep dealing with, and like you
Mhm.
learn more about them, and like they have like kind of a tit for tat sort of situation. Instead, like they're just running through so many villains, and like they're introducing you to brand new people, and they're spending a lot of time trying to tell you who that person is in the same episode that they then kill them off or something, just for somebody brand new to come. But all the classic stuff is still in there, like the the way they ask like, oh, is this an enemy stand attack or whatever, like that. All like the tropes that you know and love is still in there, and like it still works, like it still hits. It's super violent, super ridiculous, super flamboyant. I'm still enjoying it. But I mean, there's not really that much to say about it.
Is it already done? Like, are you gonna be able to finish it?
Yeah, I think the second half is completed already. Like I
Mhm.
mean, like it's on Netflix currently, so like they throw everything out. And I don't know what comes after Jolene. I knew that Jolene was the next one, and that they finally animated it, but I don't know if there's someone after her, because like this is like pretty much modern day, and they keep like the JoJo's is like Castlevania in that the family follows generations.
Oh, so like
But
if they
like
do more, it'd have to be
yeah,
the
like
future.
are they gonna start going to the future? I wonder.
Jojo
But like
fights a
they did
robot.
they did side steps where like they're following the Joestar family, but then they took a little bit of a detour and followed like a descendant of Dio's
Mhm.
family. So like they might do something like that again, so that they can stay parallel, maybe. But
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they will actually go to the future if they haven't already. But in terms of video games, I for Hidden Gems played Leica Aged Through Blood. This is a Metroidvania. where you play as like a little like doggy coyote fox lady who's basically like a road warrior. Like she has a motorcycle in like the desert, and so you're on the bike literally while you're going through levels, and it has momentum. You have to like slide in order to turn around. So like it's very deliberate control where you don't feel like a character. You feel like you're on a bike. And enemies will stay in place and shoot at you, and you basically use the bottom of your bike as a shield. You can like do backflips and front flips. It has kind of Trialsy-esque controls where you're like leaning forward and backwards. She can parry and send bullets back, and she has a gun of her own and can shoot enemies from the bike. And it is super hard. It is like incredibly difficult. And like I wasn't having a great time because I was streaming and like couldn't really concentrate. This was the whole time when Jesse and I was having the argument about Metroidvania's names as well. So like it was not helping that I was like really like trying to debate this man while trying to like do backflips and shoot at like 6 dudes surrounding me in an area. But like the art is fantastic. It's got incredible music. Like I need to go seek out the soundtrack because like it has like melodies and then like songs with lyrics as well that just fit the situations beautifully, like perfectly. Even though it's like anthropomorphic characters, it's like a collection of animals fighting against like the sort of bird collective of like bandits that are like harassing the area. It's very gritty. Like the opening sequence, like you're dealing with like a friend and their child who have both been like brutally murdered. Well, the child was brutally murdered, like strung up by his own entrails and whatnot, and the father goes for revenge and ends up dead as well. And like it's super grisly and gruesome, but there's also like a bunch of spirituality stuff in it. Like the main character apparently can talk to the dead. So as soon as that friend of yours dies after going and trying to get revenge for his son, like they have a conversation. Like she has a conversation with his corpse, and she's essentially talking to him about like, oh, she's jealous that he basically got to leave their harsh world and like, you know, be at peace with his son because she still basically got to raise her child in like the harsh reality of like the world they live in. I'm like, yo, this is like hitting.
Yeah.
So like I'm super interested in what that game. I didn't get very far in it whatsoever, but I definitely want to go back and play some more of it. But this might be something I can't really stream because I'm gonna need to freaking pay attention to like those combat encounters.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I also finished Ghost Runner for review very recently. Same kind of thing where not a Metroidvania, but like it has platformer elements like Leica does, where like quick restarts. So when you die in the arena and whatnot, it's a little more forgiving than Ghost Runner 1. Only in that they give you a couple more options to deal with threats. They don't really tone down the threats themselves. Like things aren't less dangerous. For example, you still die in one hit, but enemies do as well. But the one thing I always loved about Ghost Runner was how effortless its movement feels. Like you don't have to press a button to wall run. You just move towards the wall and that happens automatically, which frees you up to just concentrate on what's coming at you, which might be projectiles or enemy placement, so that you can jump off and head towards either the next platforming thing to like get around a threat or to like head towards something that you want to eliminate immediately. And you get a lot of like active tools that you can use. Like you have like a force push type thing that can just literally push enemies away from you and off platforms. You can throw shurikens, which can either kill some super weak enemies or create it can like stun bigger ones and create like a grapple point so you can like get to them super quick. And there are other like passive upgrades, stuff like that changes your grapple towards enemies to like a teleport, so you basically don't have to actually spend time in the air. You just immediately get there and like cut them in half. And like everything that serves these sorts of like platforming and combat functions look and feel super cool. So like there's never any time spent trying to figure out how to deal with a situation that doesn't also feel rewarding for at least getting that far. Like even if you get killed halfway through it, you're like, oh damn it, I have to do that again. But doing it again is still fun and cool as shit. So like I had a ton of fun with it. It adds new stuff like motorcycle segments. And the motorcycle integrates super well with all the rest of your kit. Like you can jump off of it while it's moving, and then like grapple back to it when it like leaves you behind.
Yeah.
So like you have to like you have to like jump over like like laser beam traps, and like they're like exploding barrels with like enemies that you can like drive. You can drive through enemies with using the bike. The bike has guns that you can shoot at enemies at. So like it's just fun as shit. And like there's a boost, and and the motorcycle sections are like they're very different from the regular platforming sections, but they connect as if in the section where you have the bike, you have to go through certain trials to then get to the next area, and like they're like big ass jumps and ramps, and there's like loops, not loops, but like tubes that you can like circle around because like the ground is missing on the bottom, so you basically ride up the side of the roof onto the ceiling and then around the other side because you're going so fast. And it just feels and looks so cool, all of it. And it also managed to have a pretty interesting story. Like the characters are kind of flat, but the stuff that they're dealing with was actually intriguing to me. Like you kill a dictator in the first game, and you free yourself from their control because you're basically like you were like an assassin built by the man in the first game, right? But like you get hacked by the opposition, and you essentially become your own person, and then you decide to help them, and you take down a dictator. And then the second game essentially says, now that we killed the dictator, how do we run a country?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like that
What do
actually
we
turns
do
out
now?
to be really difficult because like all these different factions want different things. Other people want power, and like a new group of ghost runners who are like you essentially rise up and claim that you're now part of the establishment, and like you're like you supposedly have a free mind and whatnot, but you just take their orders or whatever. So like it's like this real dichotomy, and the main character actually has to think a little bit about like, all right, well, yeah, I'm part of this group, but it's because I chose to be, because I believe in what they believe in, right? Because he has conversations with like the opposing faction, and like some of them have convincing arguments as to like maybe why he shouldn't be doing what he's doing. And like I really enjoyed that. Like it really gave a lot of weight to some of the situations, even though it is at its core just like really just fun ninja action BS. But
Wild
I
that in
loved
the
it.
span of like 7 or 10 days, we got like, I mean, all the games we talked about today. We got Mario,
Yeah.
Spider-Man, Alan Wake, like Ghost Runner, games that are like wildly different genres, but are all scoring incredibly high.
Yeah,
Like
they
all
they're
getting like
so
universal eights and
good.
above. Yeah.
I said something on Twitter like, "Is this still the year that Fire Emblem Engage came out?"
Like, that's
Crazy. Yeah.
unbelievable. Yeah.
We've gone
Hi-Fi
through a whole
Rush. And,
generation of gaming in one
yeah.
year.
Yeah. It's, I mean, it definitely does feel like all the like sort of dams that built up during the course of the pandemic kind of broke. These were the
Yeah.
games that a
Yeah.
lot of these games we may have seen last year or even the year before. But yeah, just an impressive year, and there's still a handful of cool games on the
Yeah,
way.
and
Like
it's not finished.
we still have Call of Duty, we still have Mario RPG, we still have Avatar. Like wild.
Yeah, it's really incredible. It's almost too much. Maybe maybe because
Maybe
there's something
we-
I'm playing right now that I also would like to rave about, and like I can't because embargo hasn't hit yet. But like, yeah, there's still stuff coming.
Yeah.
It's insane. But that pretty much wraps it up for me. Well, you know what? Just before we get to our final topic, I did listen to Blink-182's new album. Now I remember
was
getting
it?
into an online debate with Tommy Salty because he was basically talking trash about Blink-182, saying that they
you
haven't
dare,
had a good
Tommy.
album since their self-titled album like several years
Don't
ago,
you
Blink-182.
Don't you dare.
I'm a great big fan of them. I don't believe they've ever made a bad album. And the album that they just released is probably their worst album.
Oh no!
Like it's not terrible, but it does it half the songs are just not fun to listen to. And like that's super disappointing because I love Blink-182 so much. And like they released a ton of singles before this drop too. And I was like I was big on all of them. And all
Yeah.
of them are good, the singles. But like the rest of the stuff on that album is kind of just missing the mark for me. And I've always really liked the fact that they stuck to their whole we're immature, like we lament growing up, like that's their whole
Yeah.
thing, right? Like that inner child that just won't shut up, like that's Blink-182 constantly telling
Yeah.
you like, yeah, I'm still a kid in here, even though I'm a 50-something-year-old man, and like that hasn't changed. Like that's still what the bulk of the content in their album is about. But but some of the tracks do sort of feel like they were phoned in that regard. It was like they're not really saying anything about that that mindset as they are repeating sort of tropes about that mindset.
Yeah. It is hard at a certain point. It is like that's kind of the hard thing if you don't evolve. Like, does that message eventually? Do you like lose synonyms? It's like like have you are you at a loss for more ways to say the same thing you've been saying since the mid to late 90s, since Dude Ranch and albums like that?
Because I do believe that they have evolved. They've evolved a great deal since their beginning, especially
music, like sonically, yeah.
And they've tried slightly different things over the last couple of albums. When they didn't have their lead singer Tom DeLonge, they subbed in some other folks, and honestly, I felt like they were still releasing like quality music. Like I liked it quite a bit.
Yeah, they got like Matt Skiba from Alkaline Trio.
Yes, yeah,
great. Yeah, that was an interesting era.
But this one seems like they're maybe kind of knocking the dust off because like it's the first time the three of them have been back in like a really long time. And honestly, like that trio is the best version of Blink-182. Sure. Like, I hope they keep going. Like give this a couple more tries. I hope they don't get discouraged because I do know that they were super pumped about this release. Like, I want to say Mark had said that one of the singles that they released, One More Time, which is one of my favorite songs on the album actually, was like one of the best songs he feels like Blink has ever done. Like he was that high on it. And I agree, it's a really fantastic, really emotional song. But like just the whole project as a complete thing is kind of missing the mark. Like I'll still listen to it, but I might skip around, and I don't do that with Blink-182 albums. I don't do that with many of the albums that I actually give the time of day. But I don't know. I want them to keep going. I love Blink-182 still. But that's pretty much it for me. So we can move on to our final topic, our only topic. Xbox.
Let's get into this org chart.
Yes, Xbox has reorganized some of their upper level management in the wake of the Activision Blizzard deal closing. First off, Matt Booty is becoming the president of game content and studios, which puts him over ZeniMax, which is Bethesda and whatnot. Whereas I believe Bethesda was kind of put to the side and didn't have anyone other than Phil Spencer over them prior.
Almost autonomous.
Yeah, like
limited
kind of
integration.
Left to their own devices. And Sarah Bond has now been made president of Xbox, and she oversees all platform and hardware stuff. And then they had a chief marketing officer, Chris Capicella, who's now leaving the company after 32 years. So these are like the major ones. If you look at the org chart that was put out, Bobby Kotick is very far down on this list, but he is still on the list. We've heard that at the end of the year, like once 2024 rolls around, he's gone. Like he's out of the company. We won't have to deal with Bobby Kotick anymore. So yay, congrats, we did it on that front.
He can take his massive golden parachute and F off.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing we can do about that, right? So we'll take what we can get. But once he does depart, apparently Xbox's main leadership will actually have more female executives than male executives. And I don't know how this stacks up in other companies in their hierarchy, but I feel like that's pretty significant. And that's kind of telling maybe about how progressive the Xbox organization has been or has tried to be under Phil Spencer's leadership. And I know I sound like a Phil Spencer fanboy, and it's because I kind of am. Like I really feel like he genuinely gives a shit about like both video games and about the consumers' at least perception of them and the games that they make. But all that being said, Xbox has struggled in the realm of producing quality first-party video games. And now that they're bringing in yet another big library of games and studios, is there any hope that this new reorganization can maybe help kind of get some of these fledgling studios who have been making stuff for Xbox and kind of failing to get them to be good, for lack of a better word? Can it actually help turn this ship around, because it seems to be a very tall order for Phil Spencer and co.
Oh, well, I think Matt Booty's promotion is intended to, well, I should say, like, his new oversight. They say that ZeniMax will still have limited integration with Xbox, but now they have to report to him, which kind of makes me think that what they're, and I think several articles have inferred this as well, that they are trying to avoid a Redfall situation, because the whole thing with Arcane was that they had, everyone just sort of assumes that Microsoft, like, was the reason that game failed, but they said they basically had no input into what Arcane was doing with Redfall. Arcane had total creative freedom to make the game they wanted to make, and look how that turned out. So it kind of makes me wonder whether they're trying to maybe at least gently put a hand on the reins. If not, not outright taking the reins away from the writer, but just sort of gently trying to steer a little bit. Or at least putting Matt Booty in a position where he could conceivably, where he at least has the power to pull the plug and say, "Hey, this isn't working for us. We need to change things around."
That's the way I'm looking at it. Is Matt Booty is there as kind of an executioner, like not so much all right, you need to do this and make this better in this way, but more so if something seems to be going down a certain road, he can just tell them to stop and do something else. Like this will not go any further. And again, that would avoid a Redfall situation, but it would also wouldn't fix the problem, I guess, of them releasing something that is of like a high quality, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, are there any ideas for that?
Everyone say hello to my husband back there.
Hey.
Just a little bit, but
yeah, I mean, it's Redfall to me feels like a kind of one of those like Perfect Storm kind of games that its failure was the result of probably a half decade of bad decisions, and trying to chase a trend that by the time the game came out, people were kind of sick of, and trying to fit a square peg in a round hole with a developer who does not make these kind of games, and trying to get them to make these kinds of games. And
whose idea was that? Was that something that Bethesda or ZeniMax pushed on Arcane, or was it something Arcane wanted to do? Like, did we ever figure that out?
It's hard to say. I mean, the way Phil Spencer just sort of described it when he was talking about Redfall made it sound like it was entirely Arcane's idea. But that's not to say that it could have been, like, a lot of the idea for it could have come from Arcane, but it could very well have been Bethesda to come in and say, "Hey, 4-person co-op multiplayer titles are popular right now. Make a 4-person co-op multiplayer.
We want a game that can live on beyond its initial release. So make one of those."
Which isn't a bad thing to want, but I think the execution definitely left something to be desired.
Yeah. The interesting thing about Microsoft is it has, when compared directly, I guess, to Sony, just because it's the comparison that makes the most sense, I feel like Microsoft has a way lower floor. Like, Microsoft has a tendency over the past decade to release games that are duds in a way that Sony first-party games usually aren't. And even the ones that are less warmly received at launch, like Days Gone, end up growing to have kind of like a cult fan base now. Then you have the rest of their games, which are usually lauded with awards and highly praised. Your Spider-Man's, Last of Us, Tsushima's, everything like that. God of War. Whereas Microsoft, had we mentioned the either first party or published games, like we mentioned Quantum Break and Recore, and then stuff that was canceled like Scalebound, and stuff that came out super disappointing, like Crackdown. Yeah. And then we have everything that happened with Halo and everything that happened with Redfall. Like, there's Microsoft, it still feels like we have that, they'll be here in 5 minutes thing that we've been saying for as long as you and I have been doing pods, and I've been saying on podcasts for almost 10 years. And adding an entire stable of Activision developers, like, in theory, a bunch of this year's best-selling games are now Microsoft games. That's going to be Diablo, that's going to be Call of Duty, that's going to be Starfield, like that. Those don't. it's funny because like those, you can scream and pound your fists all you want and say those aren't homegrown talent. You literally had to buy Bethesda and you had to buy Activision for those. But like, I don't know, they did. Like,
I
I
mean, yeah,
like,
they have.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think I do want to. I don't want to defend Xbox because obviously, like, they are lagging behind PlayStation to a degree, and definitely behind Nintendo, especially with regards to first party titles. But I will say I feel like a lot of times, like, to the comparison, sort of like the comparison is the thief of joy, because we are sort of overlooking some of the stuff that Xbox has done really well, which is
Mm.
things like Microsoft Flight Simulator, Forza Motorsport, the Age of Empires series, stuff that is not necessarily it's not necessarily Spider-Man or God of War level, like,
Yeah, it doesn't
single player
capture the public's
narrative.
attention in the
Yeah,
same
it's
way.
not like these like huge like cinematic style games, but they are good games that have been, Pentiment. I mean, I will sit here and hold the banner up for Pentiment, all day long. So I do think it is worth mentioning. And so let's not talk about Xbox like they're like some like beleaguered underdog who have nowhere to go but up. They have produced a lot of good games, and one of the things that I always want to remind people when we talk about the Activision Blizzard acquisition, they got King too. They've got Candy Crush now,
Mhm.
and I think would be remiss to like suggest that that's not going to be funding a lot of stuff going forward.
Okay. I mean, that that is all very true. Like, yeah, no, Microsoft is not getting any smaller. Like,
Mhm,
despite like Sony like winning all the accolades or whatnot, like Microsoft continues to like press on their heels, with
mhm.
just the looming shadow of the the behemoth that they've become.
Mhm.
But it still very much feels like they're on the back foot because like it's apparent like when it comes down to it, like games are just that's where all of your pedigree comes from, right? Like the
Mhm.
number of first party games you release that basically blow people's socks off, right?
Yeah.
And like and it's not just that Microsoft has less, it's that they have games that come out of their first party studios that are bad or that are mediocre or
Oh
that
yeah,
are
yeah.
super divisive. Like, because even Starfield, which is probably their biggest release in that vein, in a really long time, pretty much half of people are like, I don't mess with this at all. It's like, I
Yeah.
don't like this at all. But it's like, this is the best that they have, is a game that's that divisive, even though like there's a huge fan base for it, but also there's people who
Mhm.
just hate it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, again, I think the comparison is like if you compare their like cinematic level first party single player narrative games to to even Nintendo, yeah, they're definitely going to fail in that comparison.
Hmm.
And I mean, but I'm just going to point out, somebody mentioned in the comment this year we've had Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah, that
I'm just
happened this
saying.
year. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that game
Yeah.
a great deal.
It's
Oh my
their
God, that was this year.
Microsoft
Yeah.
cast a very wide net though, and a
Mhm.
lot of their wins are relatively niche. Like I love Hi-Fi Rush as well, but like Hi-Fi Rush, Age of Empires, Flight Sim, Forza, even Psychonauts to a degree, Pentiment, they're niche successes, and it's various sizes of niches because like
Yeah.
there's a like the racing genre is huge, but like in the conversations we have, it feels niche. Same thing with sports games. Whereas
No, I understand.
Sony makes those summer blockbusters that everyone goes to the theaters for, And
Hmm.
that being said, a lot of their summer blockbusters do feel kind of similar. Like, you have
Hmm.
their third person story driven games that oftentimes take the control away from you, that tell really good stories, that have some sort of crafting or RPG elements to them. You see a lot of that DNA through Spider-Man and Tsushima and
Hmm.
Last of Us and God of War and everything. Whereas
Turn all half
Microsoft
of them into
feels,
movies because they're basically movies already. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And Microsoft has a more diverse portfolio, but that also means that portfolio is more diverse in reception to it.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
just
fair enough.
it makes me I just realized we're kind of like overlooking like the big like excitement here. Sarah Bond, president of Xbox now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Congratulations to
yeah,
Sarah. I
yeah.
mean, I like Sarah Bond,
Yeah,
so I'm
she's
happy
great.
for her.
Yeah, every time she's shown up, she's like impressed. The her performance during the the trial that they had was like kind of amazing.
Yeah. I feel like that was like a lock for like, okay, like maybe she was like in the running for this position, and then it
Uh
was like,
huh.
all right, that's perfect. Yeah.
But like they do say that her role is specifically looking at hardware, and we can't expect to have some new hardware stuff in the next couple of years. Like apparently there's going to be like a light version of the Xbox Series X. The S is already discless, but I think we're getting like a big one with no disc. And then there was stuff about new controllers coming soon, and like their regular Elite controllers, their version 2 Elite controllers are going on sale for like ridiculous low prices all the time. I feel like they're trying to get rid of stock.
Which usually, yeah, that's usually a telltale sign something else is coming.
Yeah, so I'm kind of excited for whatever they got about new controllers, because I know they've been toying with the idea of the haptic stuff that Sony has, even though I feel like that's fallen into gimmick territory. Like I know folks were like really hype about it, but like people aren't really using it, and it doesn't seem to be
It's
mattering that much.
I bought Alan Wake on PlayStation because they said you could feel the raindrops on the controller.
I will say the haptics are pretty good in Spider-Man too, as well for certain things,
Mhm.
but not like. But you are right. It is largely a gimmick. It's not something that like changes the whole game or anything.
Yeah, but I think that is what we're going to see in for future Xbox controllers, perhaps coming late to the party with that. But the main thing is like with Matt Booty now being in charge of game content and Sarah Bond as just general president, I kind of don't feel like this is going to have a ton of impact on the output of these studios in a real way. Like at best, like you guys were saying, Matt Booty might be able to axe a project that looks like it's gonna arrive dead essentially, but that just
Hmm.
means less stuff from Xbox than we're already getting. I feel like, and like the stuff that does make it to prime time will continue to kind of be sort of near misses in a way, because what has changed? Like they've added more studios now that Phil and Matt and Sarah have to look. Well, Sarah doesn't really handle studio stuff, but like Phil and Matt have to basically corral even more studios and developers than they had before. And if they, especially if they start getting pitches for like long dead franchises from Activision, from like one of the many studios that just make Call of Duty, that's even more stuff that now gets splintered off from like the other big thing that they're now going to have some sort of oversight on. So like the odds are in their favor that you're going to get something really good out of all of this, but it's equally as likely that you're going to get more, just whatever.
We earlier when we were talking about the MCU, one of the I'm reading a book by Joanna Robinson right now, who's an amazing culture critic. That's sort of like the story of the MCU, and she interviewed a shit ton of people past, present, and future. And it's just really great, kind of like oral history of the rise and sort of tumultuous modern day of the MCU. And one of the things is how up through Endgame, Kevin Feige kind of had his thumbprint on almost everything. Like everything ultimately ran through him, and so the story got to be sort of woven like this tapestry because he was able to like see that through.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the shows got to Disney Plus, and instead of making 2 or 3 movies a year, you were making 3 or 4 movies a year plus several 7 to 10 hour series a year. That became harder and harder for a single person to do, to have
Yeah.
oversight over that many things. And so there is that worry here with not only did Microsoft proper, pre ZeniMax gobble up a lot of studios like Obsidian and Compulsion and Double Fine, but then folding in all the ZeniMax studios and now folding in all the Activision Blizzard King studios, that is a lot.
Yeah. It's a
And
lot.
like, I don't know how certain things kind of just move on their own. Like Call of Duty is that train's always going to arrive on time, but like if you want to make any major changes, does that come at the detriment of giving the time and care needed to your first party studios? Like, because it's one of those things where it feels like there's a lot of fires right now
Mhm.
at Xbox. Halo's on fire. And we need to figure out what we're doing with Halo, but also what do we do with Call of Duty? How do we redefine Call of Duty? But also, we want to revive some of these dead franchises. But also, man, Elder Scrolls 6 really needs to be a win.
Yeah.
But also, Arcane needs a bounce back from Redfall because that wasn't working
Also,
well.
Overwatch 2 apparently is failing everybody.
Also, what do we do? Maybe we just make Warcraft 4. Would people be happy about that? Maybe we do that. But also, Marty keeps saying he wants Banjo-Kazooie, so maybe we should make a Banjo-Kazooie game. But also, Minecraft's the biggest game on the planet.
Perfect Dark's also on
I want a new
there.
Spyro game.
Yeah, but also people want a new Spyro game. Like this is like we're getting into some Cheesecake Factory shit here, and as someone who likes the Cheesecake Factory, I'm not sure how I feel about all this.
No, yeah, that essentially the long and short of it is like I mean, and the thing is, like, these are just the main people.
Oh yeah,
who is it that they're delegating some of this other stuff to? Like, who's in charge of all the individual studios that they can trust to sort of get stuff over the finish line in a way that's going to help them out in this particular regard. But
do we know who's replacing Bobby Kotick at Activision Blizzard yet?
No clue.
No.
Okay, because I have
Are you putting your hat in the ring?
Oh, could I do a worse job?
No,
absolutely not. Nope.
You at least have empathy.
Something. I'm not going to threaten to kill my secretary.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, is your secretary Bobby Kotick?
Yeah. In that
That'd
case,
be a weird dynamic between the two of us, wouldn't it?
We'll give it a pass. I want to see what their Google calendars look like, or their Microsoft Edge calendars. I don't know what
Microsoft Edge. It's Teams, right? That's their product.
Teams. I want to see their Teams calendar because that seems like they're busy. Like, what do those meetings look like?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. They should just make Minecraft 2. I still think they should do that. I don't care about Minecraft, but I would get excited if they announced Minecraft 2.
Of course.
Wouldn't that be cool?
I think Minecraft is fine.
I think that a lot of I think that this reorg is more about top level management. It's not necessarily, I don't necessarily think they're going to shake up. Like, they're still keeping all the same leadership at ZeniMax. Like, nobody is they're not reorganizing ZeniMax and Bethesda.
Pete Hines just left, right?
Pete Hines just left. Yeah. I mean,
he like retired. Like,
yeah,
sure.
Like,
there are a lot of people in the industry who are retiring right now. I mean, Donald Mustard retired, Pete Hines retired, Jim Ryan retired.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's drama." And I'm like, "No, these people are like now in their 50s or 60s, and they're rich as shit."
Yeah, these people have been in the industry for 30 plus years,
and they have a hell of stock options on these companies, so they're good. Yeah,
like the fellow who I can't pronounce his name, but the one who just got replaced by Takeshi Nomoto. I think, like they said, he's been in the industry for 32 years, and you know, there's a part of me that's thinking, is he probably just retired?
Yeah. You know,
so
I don't think he's drama and more. Yeah.
I mean, what's going on with Hideki Kamiya? That's drama.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah. Him and Shinji Mikami are definitely coming back and getting the band back.
Have you guys been watching his YouTube channel?
Yes, I am.
Like, he does not know what to do with himself. He's just like answering random questions.
Here's my sick Lambo with suicide doors.
Yeah. You know, Hideki Kamiya has made some of my favorite games ever. So, but there is a part of me that is a little scared of him.
You're gonna get fucking blocked for saying that. You're absolutely getting blocked.
Oh yeah. If I'm not already blocked, I don't say anything directly to the man because he doesn't like when people talk to him in English. So, you know.
Yeah.
But
also,
anyway.
Lampy brings up a good point that Pete Hines and Donald Mustard both retiring. Something's going down at the condiment factory. Johnny Mayo found dead. Heinz ketchup.
But yeah, I think
nice
this is
maybe.
more to simplify things a little bit because I mean, I think how do I put this? I think with having so much under the umbrella, they're trying to make sure that they have the right people holding the umbrella, if that makes sense. I mean, that's a really bad metaphor, but I'm doing my best here. I'm sleep deprived.
It's a really big umbrella, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, let me try a different metaphor. They are going.
No, I want you to double down on the umbrella.
Okay, double down on the umbrella. So, because the umbrella has to cover so many different things, they're making sure that the tallest people at the company are holding it.
Excellent.
So, did I save it? Did I salvage it?
Maybe.
So there's some sort of a large slender man.
Yes. Sarah Bond is Slender Man. Yes, that is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and there's still
Yeah, I think it's more of a
obviously-
top-down level reorganization, just to keep things a little bit more tidy, and to just so everyone ultimately knows that. I think a large part of this is just so that like a lot of the emails don't go to Phil Spencer.
Sure,
Because
he's got
a
enough
lot
on
of
his plate.
stuff, a lot of stuff has been going probably like a lot of stuff at ZeniMax has probably been going directly to Phil Spencer, as like because somebody has to be the person ultimately to answer all the questions.
Mm.
And now,
So
and
yeah,
obviously, like all of these studios still have studio heads that are
Mhm.
running the studios, and so yeah, that is just how an org chart works. Is that the studio heads are going to be in charge of all that, and in both ways, Spencer's going to delegate to Matt Booty, and Matt Booty's going to delegate to the studio heads, and the studio heads are going to delegate to their teams, and vice versa. The information is going to go the other way up.
yeah, and that's just on the content side. Like Sarah Bond is going to be the one handling like the hardware and the
Yeah.
software development as well. So I think it more clearly delineates who's in charge of what, so that it's not just all just like a big spaghetti underneath.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and being an affable public face, like, and
Yes.
that Sony's kind of missing now. Sony needs like,
Yeah.
they have Herman Hulse and they have studio heads that people know and game directors and stuff, but like they're missing like Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond are like really charismatic and like they
So is Matt
yes,
Booty.
and Matt Booty,
Yeah,
yeah,
Matt
and
Booty's
like
had an online presence for a while too. Yeah,
and like people will be like they're ultimately they're just corporate employees at the end of the day. I mean, yeah, that's
like,
their jobs.
yeah, we have, but like the video game industry, weirdly enough, has always sort of heralded like our heads of the video game companies.
Yeah,
Like folks love Miyamoto, like they loved
Yeah.
Reggie
Yeah.
Fils-Aimé.
yeah. Reggie, who was just a corporate
Yeah, he's
dude.
just
Reggie
he's
was
just an
not
executive.
yeah. And so I don't think that's like I don't know that
Well,
that
they're all
to me isn't
ultimately
like a
selling.
gotcha.
Yeah, they're all ultimately selling a product.
Yeah. But then at the same time, you're like, do you? Because there's a difference. There's like you are bullshitting me. And there's also like, oh, I sense sincerity and some sincerity and honesty here, and I sense that from the Microsoft folks. Even though yes, at the end of the day, they are trying to make money.
This is not necessarily
aren't we all?
relevant, but were any of you kind of like, did you guys get weird vibes from Sean Layden, the guy who used to be PlayStation CEO? The guy,
I
since we're
kinda
talking
like
about
Sean Layden.
charismatic, did you guys, I mean, since you since you mentioned charismatic public figures, I was always a little bit like, I feel like he's a mafia boss secretly. That was the vibe he always gave me.
I thought he was a little weird, but he really liked old games and cared about preservation, and
Mhm.
that meant a lot to me because Jim Ryan didn't. And as
Yeah,
someone who has a
that's
head
true.
injury said yesterday that we should no longer be able to play games made after 2003. Was I only want old games, and so I approve of that.
Yeah, I was very shocked when they picked Jim Ryan over Sean Layden, when they decided to like consolidate their like heads or whatnot. Like I don't know what happened back there because I always thought Sean Layden was the more popular of the two, but maybe just
Yeah.
here in the West he was, and Jim Ryan was just making shit tons of money in Europe for them, and it was like we're gonna go with this guy.
Tom Lane wouldn't stop talking about old games. Turns out my whole thing is not a good way to run a business.
Yeah, I think this is all. I think this as a corporate reorg, this makes sense, especially since they basically doubled the size of their entire gaming division
Yeah.
with this acquisition. So I think ultimately it's giving more people for everything to funnel through. So you've ultimately now you've got like under Phil Spencer, you've got on the Xbox side. That's to say nothing because they've reorged some stuff on Microsoft side as well that we haven't even got into. But on the Xbox side, they reorged everything to go under Sarah Bond and Matt Booty, and then under them, I think they mentioned that they have a new head of PR. Let me just see if I can find his exact title because I just accidentally X'd out of it.
Clippy. Dun-dun-dun-dun. Remember Clippy?
Damn it, Clippy.
Still
grinding
it out.
Clippy B.
Oh, there it is.
Is Clip still working in games?
No, he wrote a comic book about like a robot dog that he keeps trying to get people to read.
Yeah. Takeshi Nomoto is the chief marketing officer. By the way, I'm just going to say Takeshi Nomoto is the same person who in those leaked documents that was those Xbox leaked documents, he's the one who suggested they should buy Nintendo. And Phil Spencer had to turn around and say like, I like the way you think, but no.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Maybe that was one of those. There's no bad ideas in this meeting. Kind of thing. Like,
It was
listen,
just one of those
brainstorm,
things.
pie in the sky.
If I had to be held responsible for every weird idea I floated in a corporate meeting, I mean, come on.
Exactly.
Well, people are saying, like, oh, Xbox wants to buy Nintendo just because Phil Spencer said, like, well, it would be a career moment if we did. Of course, it would be.
Yeah.
And of course, they want to buy Nintendo. I want to buy Nintendo.
From the
It's a
very
matter of
beginning,
whether
that
or
was
not.
their plan. Before they decided to actually do video games, Microsoft was like, let's just go buy Nintendo. And Nintendo was like, nah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I can't fault them for wanting to buy Nintendo. It's okay to want things. But, even Phil Spencer is like, it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the gist of the reorg. I don't think too much is going to actually change, but I hope it does make the process of getting quality games to the finish line better, because that has been a struggling point for Microsoft. Oh, bless you.
Pardon me.
But we're way over time at this point, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Unless you guys have any closing thoughts on this that you'd like to add. No? All right. Well, Rachel, what do you have coming up that folks can check out? Where can they find you?
You can find my writing over at venturebeat.com/games, which is GamesBeat. And I also do a daily gaming news blast over on TikTok. So if you are interested in just getting a daily update on everything that's happening in the video games industry, that's where you can find my stuff. I'm currently on hiatus from my Stay Golden Sunday recaps because I just finished season 3, but I am working on my season 1 wrap up of Perry Mason to hopefully go live tomorrow. So that's all my my big stuff. I am working on a couple of smaller game reviews and one big game review, wink, 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 that's coming out in a few days. That'd probably be that'd be a little further down the line. But I am working on a few more things, and I have a link tree that you can find on my Twitter and my Twitch, and basically every site has a link tree, so that if the Twitter is not your thing, for example, you can find me on a whole bunch of other platforms. I am now on Blue Sky and Threads as well, if you want to come find me there.
Sweet. Marty, where can folks find you? What do you have coming up?
I'm trying to figure out what that big review you were talking about was.
let me check the embargo, see if I'm actually allowed to say.
You just tell me off stream.
Okay, I'll tell you off stream.
Oh yeah, I'll just do all the normal stuff. Just all the normal stuff. I'll be back. I'll be finishing that scary Silent Hill game I was talking about later tonight. Probably around 6 p.m. or so.
Nice.
Very scary. I need to put that behind, and then I need to play something very nice. I don't know what it's going to be, but it needs to be nice. I've been stuck in this goddamn room, and everything is so tense. How is a game where you put it on easy and it's just still very difficult? Why even put the difficulty options in there then?
Yeah, I wonder what not easy is then.
I don't want to know. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to know, and I don't want to talk about it. There's so many ghosts in that game. You can't do shit about the ghosts. You can't do anything. They just chase you. You hit them with axes, and they just get back up. It's fucking terrible.
Great game. That does sound like a ghost.
It's great. Yeah, I mean, it's like a Japanese ghost. So Japanese ghosts do not quit. They are hardworking. They put in the work, and
they stick around.
They stick around. And the one that has very long hair, and that hair, when you get entangled in it, you stop moving. You have this AI partner, and she is so fucking. Oh, I feel so bad. She is so dead. And I'm gonna get to the end of the game, and she's gonna die so quickly, and I'm gonna get the worst ending, and I'm just gonna feel bad because I want this character to be fine, but I'm so bad at protecting her. I'm just so bad. This is why I'm never gonna have children, because I'm never gonna be able to protect them from ghosts.
That reminds me, didn't a Fatal Frame game also come out this year?
It did. I think it was like a remake.
Been the most.
Too many games. Games.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
We should stop.
There's no more.
No more games.
Shut off the spigot. No more.
No, they should turn it to full blast right before the end.
This is full blast. Casey, this is full blast.
Oh man. But as for me, you can find me at SigmaGears9 all over the internet. I mentioned earlier that I just reviewed Ghost Runner. I think that's the most recent 3MR that I have over on Escapist. But there are several others before that, like Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharged, Lord of the Fallen. I keep blanking because there's been so much and it's just crowding my brain. But I also have new reviews coming very soon, within the weeks of November, that you guys can look forward to. I also have all the regular streams that we're doing throughout the week that you can check out. And outside of that, check me out over on the Open Party channel for more Super Smash Sunday this afternoon, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Last week I showed up at like the very last of the 3 hours we do, but we had like a ton of brand new people who were there beforehand.
Nice.
And like the matches were like going nuts. So I'm kind of upset that I missed that. So hopefully we get some of those folks back. But that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Rachel, for joining me. Thank you, Marty, for joining as well.
Yeah, pleasure.
We will see you all next week. Take care. This has been episode 120. Peace.
Bye, everyone.